Explained to Red, chance to buy a house, etc., and escrow is going to close in 4 days. I'm $3,500 short, and I'll work it off. I'll pay you back any way I can, etc. So he said.
This is Morita Noriyuki. Of course, he's more famously known for his American pronunciation of his name as Pat Morita. But one thing you may not have known about him is that he is, of course, full American. And his mentor is Red Foxx.
I'll work it off. I'll pay you back any way I can, etc. So he said, $3,500. Ain't got no small change on me right now, but calls his secretary over with a thumb snap. He says, bring me my checkbook.
Could you teach me?
First learn stand, then learn fly.
Yeah.
Nature ruled on you, son, not mine.
Of course, most of us know Noriyuki, Pat, from the Karate Kid series, and what you saw there was an example of a Miyagi-ism, if you will. If you took any kind of martial arts in the 80s or the early 90s, your class was full of Miyagi-isms.
Win, lose, no matter. You make good fight and respect. Then nobody bother.
One of the things that we have to do when we are Americans going overseas is that we have to reevaluate our thinking. One of the things that is central to American culture is win at all costs. People say that second place is the first loser. And I used to think that way, but spending time in a different country, I understood that losing with dignity can say more than winning without it. I like this particular quote because if you practice hard, if you show your opponent that you are a hard worker, at least in spaces outside of the West, I should say, the respect that you gain from playing hard, from putting up a good fight, not quitting, is what gains the respect more so than did you win the fight. And that is an invaluable lesson that I've learned. There are people that are going to watch at how hard you are trying, what kind of effort you're putting into what you're doing. And if you win doing that, all the better. But if you lose with dignity, or better yet, if you get back up and you struggle with the language, but you pick yourself back up, people respect that. And I've seen it firsthand.
Walk right side, safe. Walk left side, safe. Walk middle, sooner or later, get the squish, just like grape.
This is probably the most famous Miyagi-ism, and I probably heard it at least once a month in my Taekwondo class when I was in elementary, junior high school. But it speaks for itself. If you want to go somewhere new, you want to change your life, you got to let go of your old life. It's just that simple. You got to do something that is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but you can't play the middle. If you play the middle, you're halfway in, you're halfway out. It just doesn't work.
Calls his secretary over with a thumb snap. He says, bring me my checkbook. So he's writing a check. Pat Morita, $3,500. And as he's writing, before he signs his name, he says, now look here. I don't want to hear about no papers, no payback, no interest, no IOU, no nothing.
Pat Morita led a very difficult life from childhood. He had a back issue that led to him being in a full body cast in the hospital. And when he healed from the illness at 11 years old, he was sent back to his family that was in an internment camp. When people go through these kinds of tough childhoods, it often leads to guys doing things like becoming comedians, which is what he did. A very complex individual that was very talented, but unfortunately had difficulties with alcoholism. But his complexity is a testament to the fact that he was so good at convincing us that he was a wise old Japanese man, which he was and still is.
Balance is key. Balance good, karate good, everything good. Balance bad, better pack up go home. When they cook great greens, I love the greens, and there was out of sight cornbread and gravy and sweet potato pie. But I gotta tell you, gang, they are messing up the rice. I Danielson, you trust quality, what you know, not quantity.
When I was younger, I thought that there was no better event than to go to a buffet, especially after church. And I thought as a kid, the best restaurant in the world had to be the biggest, best buffet ever. But as you get older, you understand that quality is so important over quantity. And it's something that we learn when we get a chance to separate ourselves from the gorge yourself, get too much, extra sugar, extra fat, deep fried attitude, and get closer to, let me enjoy this 1 or 2 bites, this morsel of goodness, and just enjoy this beautiful moment.
Now look here. I don't want to hear about no papers, no payback, no interest, no IOU, no nothing. So you want to pay me back? I know you're going to make it one day, son. You do this for somebody.
What's so beautiful about the friendship between Pat Morita and Red Foxx is that it's a very uniquely American story. A kid that came from an internment camp to find his way to Hollywood befriends a young black kid that grew up in the south side of Chicago and did quote unquote dirty comedy records. And yet there they were. Red Foxx writing a $3,500 check so that Pat Morita could save his house and his family with his pregnant wife. But what's also beautiful about this story is that it reveals the humanity of one man to another, both from very different backgrounds, helping each other on faith. And one thing is important, I think, for us to remember is that even in a space where we go back and forth at times with our counterparts, that being black women, of course, is that we should remember that instead of focusing on how much we're unhappy or disgruntled with A, B, and C, we should remember instead to focus on our own humanity. And that leads me to my favorite Miyagi-ism of all.
How's revenge?
Danielson, you look revenge that way. Start by digging to grave.
This is Red Foxx standing by his 4th wife, Cho, who he married in 1991. Unfortunately, that was the same year that he died, and so his marriage with his 4th wife was a very short one. But you can see the caption, I married Kaho because she stood by me when I didn't have a quarter. There's a part of us that is always going to be up for debate and to have the back and forth because the social situation warrants it. But we also have to remember that when the time comes and we meet that right lady, we need to be in the headspace that's going to be able to love her or take care of her, or however you choose to look at the man-woman dynamic that suits you best. What's interesting for me about Pat Morita is that he showed the versatility of being able to be someone that people thought he was until he really showed that, no, actually, this is who I really am. And that versatility is a beautiful tool to have in your toolkit. That also applies to dealing with your emotions in terms of going back and forth with the social situation. There are times to attack, and then there are times to pull back and probably be with the one that you find and love them. Because we all deserve some love sooner or later on this planet. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, guys.